This is Dave Lombardo, and you're listening to The Vinyl Guide.
Not bad, Dave. Hey, can you do one in Spanish, too?
Soy David Lombardo, y está escuchando a El Vinyl Guide.
Well, thank you very much, Dave. And hey, everyone, it's Nate here. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of The Vinyl Guide. Today's episode marks 5 years since I've been doing this podcast.
Yahoo!
And to commemorate this milestone, we have an amazing guest this week, Mr. Dave Lombardo. Now, Dave, as you likely know, is a drummer of choice for just about every band that matters, including one of the most beloved and certainly one of my favorite bands of all time, Mr. Bungle. Dave was summoned to the drum seat for the Bungle tour, as well as the new LP, The Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny demo, out October 30th with the live Bungle set on Halloween. Vinyl can be purchased and details can be had at MrBungle.com. And just to be clear, Dave is also the current drummer for the Misfits, Suicidal Tendencies, and of course Dead Cross, all of whom we talk about today in varying degrees, plus other projects like Fantômas and Slayer as well. Of course, Dave has a tremendous thrash metal history, so again, strap in and get ready for a conversation with one of the greatest drummers alive and a man who appears in my record collection more than most. And speaking of the greatest, the Groove Washer is the greatest record cleaner on the market today. And guess what? They just introduced a new bundle, the Groove Washer Mondo Record Cleaning Bundle, which is everything you need for a year or more of record spinning, available at groovewasher.com. And guess what? Here's an extra 10% off discount code for anything at groovewasher.com. Use checkout code VinylGuide10. That's groovewasher.com, discount code VinylGuide10. That's the Groove Washer, except no substitutes. And we're also sponsored today by AudiophileuSA.com, the online record shop that only sells excellent and near-mint vinyl records and ships directly to your front door. AudiophileuSA.com has over 42,000 titles in stock and will ship any one of those gorgeous records directly to your front door. They're an amazing service and sorely needed in this day and age. That's AudiophileuSA.com. Go there now and find your holy grail. And finally, if you like today's episode with Dave Lombardo, well, we've got a ton of other interviews that you may like as well, including episodes 180 and 181 of The Vinyl Guide, featuring Trey Spruance of Mr. Bungle and Secret Chiefs 3, episode 142 of The Vinyl Guide on the rare and collectible records of the Misfits, episode 135 featuring Craig LaCicero of Forbidden and Dress the Dead, episode 183 with Gene Hoglan, the Atomic Clock himself, and even episode 99 featuring Charlie Benante of Anthrax. All episodes available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Sonnet, or wherever you get your podcasts. Alrighty, that's it for the upfronts. Let's get into this week's conversation with Mr. Dave Lombardo. Hello.
Oh,
Hey, we made it happen.
yes. Now, is this a video call or is this
No. We do audio.
Perfect?
But if you want to look at me for some weird reason, you can, but it's completely unnecessary.
Okay, cool. So we're good. You don't want to look at. I got my quarantine beard, and yeah, it's great.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we were. I think one of the things that's really kind of impacted us most with COVID is just general hygiene has kind of gone out the window a bit. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Showering every other day, sometimes every third day. It usually depends on what happens the night before. That creates the laziness the following day. But
2020, every day is laundry day.
You know what? And it seems like every day the week cycle is coming around a lot quicker. And it's like, wait, it's already the weekend? What? It's Friday? I didn't know. And it just it's been messing with me. but for the most part, it's been good.
You know, the one great thing about 2020 that I have to look forward to is this Bungle album. I mean, in the sea of just a dog shit year, we have a Bungle album. So to me, that's something to certainly look forward to. But you guys have had to completely change your plans all year, I'm sure. Yeah,
a lot of shows, that were scheduled this year, were postponed. Or, obviously this year. And, they're postponed to 2021. But it seems like everybody's still busy and, doing and finishing up, wrapping up projects, doing different kinds of gigs, whether, it's, let's say if I'm recording here and somebody asks me for a drum track or something, I'll send them over something I recorded here and they use it. And it's been kind of cool, It's horrible, the entire world is sick right now. But for the most part, I've been staying busy, and I know quite a number of friends have been busy, and this Bungle project has definitely kept us busy throughout this time.
Now, you guys recorded the album in February, I believe, right as the virus was gaining speed, and I guess the big boom of the lockdown started in March. What were Bungle's plans for 2020 before the COVID virus hit?
I believe we had some shows coming up that were obviously canceled, obviously wrapping up the record. It put everything, everybody's on a standstill. But what everybody has basically been going through, which is, canceled shows, canceled festivals. I was going to go back to Europe for the first time, I think in a year. It was supposed to be this year I was going to go back to Europe, and, obviously that all got canceled. But Bungle, I think we might have had some shows and they were postponed until 2021.
Were you guys able to finish the album the way you wanted it to? Did you have enough time and enough runway to be able to at least close that out?
Well, you see, we were in Brooklyn. It's funny because I believe that both Patton and I were initially sick. And, we got pretty sick. We didn't know what the hell we had. It was just kind of a weird illness. It didn't hit us as hard as some people. But I know when I got home from Brooklyn, when I was flying home, I had a really bad fever on the airplane. And where I was just freezing. I had my jacket, my beanie, I had a blanket, and I was just icy cold. It was horrible. And, when I had to do a show the following day, and then that night, when I arrived in in San Francisco from New York, I had to immediately go to a pharmacy and pick up some meds and, to get myself ready for the show the following day in San Francisco. And that night after the show, my wife told me, you had a fever last night. And she says she's never, seen me have such an extreme fever like that. And I was miserable. And then Trey, the guitar player, he was sick as well. He caught it. I don't know if it was from Patton or I. And then his wife caught it as well. And everybody was it was just an odd illness. So whether we had it or not, I don't know, but I felt, something strange, something that was a bit unusual and a little more difficult to kick. But we got home, and after the show, I think I forget when the Bungle show in San Francisco was, but all I know is we had a day off, and we were supposed to start the following day. And I said, guys, I need a day off. Another day off to recover from this illness if I'm going to go into the studio. So we did, and we started on the 17th. I think my drum tracks took about 4 days. We knew the music really well because we had been playing shows. And then they wrapped up their guitars, vocals, and everything else, and we mixed it during quarantine, sending some rough mixes back and forth and our comments and everything. And we got it done. And, we're very happy with it. It sounds amazing. Jay Rustin, the mixing engineer, did a phenomenal job. And it was good. It was good.
It's a phenomenal album. I think it's peak thrash. I mean, the lineage, the material, this could be the mountaintop for thrash albums. What do you think?
I hope so. Yes. Yeah, I mean, it has all the qualities of a classic thrash album. We, recorded the album without a click, so there was no click track. I don't think there were any kind of edits, drum edits. I could be wrong, but because we knew the music so well that we just banged it out. It was just fairly simple, and it's raw. It's got a lot of that metal style guitar playing and some phenomenal leads. Trey just knocked it out of the park, and of course with Scott Ian on rhythm guitar, dude, he's like to me the Malcolm Young of metal. Nobody holds it down. Nobody holds down a rhythm quite like Scott. And the bass playing is superb. And everybody I think really stepped up and gave it all.
Now, there seems to have been a lot of secrecy around the Bungle reunion. I mean, I think we all knew something was up. Greg Workman actually came on the show and he leaked a little bit of information. Trey mentioned something may be happening with Bungle. And then all of a sudden, we started getting these shows and the plan was slowly revealed. Was the plan always to do the first demo tape again, or were there other options discussed early on?
No, it was the first demo tape. And to fill in some time, we learned, some covers as well to fill it in. But it was just that demo.
Okay.
And that all started, the idea or the suggestion, which came from Trevor during a Dead Cross tour. It's another band that Patton and I play in. And we were playing Brooklyn, playing the Warsaw Theater. And this had to have been 2019 or 18. And Trey Spruance was opening up for Dead Cross with the Secret Chiefs. So we had Patton, we had Trey, and Trevor shows up. And, we all took a picture backstage. And Trevor said, "Hey, this could be the new Bungle." And so he put it in the air, just put it out there. And Patton kind of like laughed. And then I think several months after, I hit up Trey and I said, "Hey, let's demo up some of those Bungle songs and surprise Patton with it." And he loved the idea. So we started working and we surprised Patton, and he was really happy and excited. And, it evolved. It went on from there.
So you guys were talking about the first demo tape really from day one.
Yeah.
You were saying, let's demo some of those early tracks.
Yes.
To surprise Patton. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, were you a fan of the first demo tape? Did you know it fairly well back then?
No, not way back then. No, I found that out after the advent of YouTube and all that. I didn't know about those tracks, but I did know that they were originally a metal band. And which it totally made sense because the first album, although it's very artistic and very avant-garde in a lot of ways, it had some metal elements. So, it all made sense. But no, I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Those guys could do any genre they wanted to, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. It's awesome. Love it. I love being surrounded by musicians like that have no boundaries,
So in terms of updating the songs, obviously you got to bring them from, 1985 or 86 to 2020. What was the guiding principle for what would be kept from the original songs and what was open for new interpretation?
Well, some of the drum rolls, I had to, give my own interpretation of the drums. So really the structure was kept. If I remember correctly, a lot of the structure was kept. Maybe something was added that I didn't notice, but when I heard those songs, the originals that are online from the demo tape, and I couldn't decipher what was going on when it came to the drums a lot of the times. So they had to lay it down on a drum machine to show me like how the sections went along. How they progress from one section to another. But I think they stayed pretty much the same.
Because it was an opportunity for the band to go in and say, "Oh, we should have done that thing in the verse, or we should have switched that around. Did they stay 100% true, or did they take the time to be able to do that?
I really don't know. I really don't know. I would think there could have been, some changes, but I really didn't go by the demo tape. Mm-hmm. I referenced more the demos later that we were creating as the band was learning the songs.
Trevor, Mike, they've made vastly different music over the years. What did you witness in terms of how it was for them revisiting the area in which they started?
Excitement. They were just blown away. They were happy. They were like, what I loved about seeing this process happen is being privy to their conversations and them reminiscing, about their childhood and, when they wrote the songs and, how they wrote the songs. Patton said, some of the songs that he wrote for this album were just on one string, on a one string guitar. He's just, that was his demo to Trevor or Trey. And then they elaborated on it, so listening, to those stories, fascinating and endearing, because you see these friends, that have been together since God, they were 17, 16, probably earlier. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really nice, to watch.
In terms of the reception of the Bungle shows and, of course, the news of a Bungle album, people have just been very excited about this. And the shows were completely sold out. I imagine just about any show that you guys are doing or planning for 2021 will be the same. If you can't tour, will Bungle begin focusing on more recording? Has there been talk of recording more Bungle?
No, nothing yet. Mm-hmm. There's been no talk. I don't see it as something that's not attainable or something that they wouldn't be opposed to. But there's been no talk of anything like that. Right now we're focusing, on the album cover, the release date, and, just getting things ready, doing interviews and things like that, and getting ready for, 2021 if we're allowed to tour or play other countries.
Yeah. So do you get the impression this is a one and done sort of thing, or do you think it has legs to keep going?
With these guys, you never know. Mm-hmm. I'm optimistic. I'm generally optimistic, so I would hope that there's more. I feel these guys have a lot of fire and a lot of creativity in them, and I just see them as continuing the Bungle machine. But you never know, because everybody's got so many different projects that one has to take a back seat every now and again. So and we all understand, we know, because we all do it. We all have several bands. So yeah, I hope there's other things that happen.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty challenging balance between all the different projects you guys have and just getting time to even be in the same place. How do you manage a schedule where, obviously they have there's probably a dozen or so bands within the other guys, and then you've got Misfits, Dead Cross, others. How do you balance it all?
Well, we're very respectful about our time together. I mean, about our time with other projects. So we usually get hit up, 6 months, 9 months in advance. And we're asked to block out a certain period for Bungle. Mm-hmm. Usually get an email from Greg. Hey guys, we're looking, to do something, block out this period. You got it. Then what I do is then I send a message out to Misfits, Suicidal, and Dead Cross, and I tell them, hey, this period is booked. So then, they work around it. Mm-hmm. And, like I said, everybody's pretty respectful, and we all make it work. Because ultimately we all want to make our fellow musicians, that we play in happy. So we try to work things out. And it 99% of the time it happens. There's a couple times where I couldn't break away from some commitments, and I had a drummer fill my bass in Suicidal, and no big deal. It's like, yeah, that's great, thank you. I would love to be there, but and they know that I do my best to try to make this work. Mm-hmm. But some offers you just can't refuse. So
yeah, I would imagine they when they reach out to you, it's generally they've got a plan B in mind in case the answer is no.
Right. Yeah.
So walk me through how the call came in from the Misfits. Did it come in from what, Caffiero? Did Glenn approach you? How did you become aware or pulled into the Misfits camp?
I was called by Danzig.
Mm-hmm.
He sent me a personal message. And he said, "Hey, let's talk." I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why he wanted to speak to me. But, he offered me the job, and he said he wouldn't. It was one of his stipulations. He said, "Okay, well, if we're going to do this, I'm getting Lombardo." And I was like, when he told me that, I was, obviously, very honored and grateful. And I've been with him now since, God, I don't know, it's a few years now, 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been great. Love it.
Yeah. How familiar were those songs to you? Were you a big Misfits fan growing up?
No, I wasn't. And I regret it because, I've heard obviously of the Misfits and I heard their songs in passing, but my exposure to punk moved, fairly quickly. The evolution of jumping from one band to another. Oh, I like this band. Oh, wait, but this band's better. And then I went to another band. And then I started finding my own catalog of punk music that I really enjoyed. And at that time, I was into the more extreme punk, the drummers that were a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
And, Misfits was in a different category. So I really didn't get into them that much. But now I love their music. I mean, those songs, they just hold so much quality when it comes to song structuring, melodies, and just the power of simple music, the simplicity and how short they are. Now for me, those songs are classics.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very reminiscent to 1950s, 1960s hits. When I'm listening to the Misfits and I'm listening to one of their melodies, I'm like, wow, it just seems like I've heard this melody before in a whole other context. And that's what I find fascinating about that band. And it's just the music is timeless.
Yeah, when I heard about the Misfits reunion, obviously it's quite an exciting bit of news. And then I heard you were on drums, and that's exciting too. But it seemed like a different style than you've been known for. Are the songs deceptively difficult?
They're deceptively difficult when it comes to remembering, because they're so short, and a lot of them, let's say two or three sometimes start the same. They have certain, how would you say?
Like the characteristics, like
there's similarities. They have a lot of similarities in them. And to remember them, like it just off the cuff, Glenn calls them out.
Confusing.
Yeah. You don't know. Okay, wait, how does that one start? I sometimes have to sing the chorus to remind myself what the rest of the song is like. So that's really the most, challenging part. And, forget about learning the songs in an order. Let's say Glenn never follows the set list. And so he just calls out the songs, and you have to be on it, man. Earth AD, you got to remember it. It's like this song, that song, bam. And I have to know them immediately, just quick. So that's the challenge. The playing, there's a lot of parts. I mean, Green Hell is brutal when it comes to your hi-hat, when you play your hi-hat, those eighth notes. But it's really nothing I wasn't used to from the Slayer days, because I played those rhythms, constantly, in that band. That's pretty much it.
Well, was there ever any discussion of revisiting some of the original Misfits material, maybe re-recording some of the classics?
I would love to, but there's some kind of magic and there's something special about those recordings where I really wouldn't want to touch them. I would kind of just, you guys do what you want, but I wouldn't, because there's magic in those recordings. They recorded on 8 tracks, 4-track machines. They recorded, I don't know how many songs in one day in a studio. in 3 hours. Oh, we got 4 hours in the studio. Let's record a whole album. That's the magic of these recordings. It's that it's raw.
Well, the same argument could be made for Bungle as well.
Yes, yeah, but at that time, I personally feel that they thought that they can do a better job now in 2020 than those songs. And they never really recorded an actual album. If it was actually recorded and released, then maybe that I would have a different opinion. But because it was just a demo, I think that it had that opportunity to be recorded a proper way.
So do you think the book is closed on the Misfits, or do you think there's more chapters in there?
Oh, there's more chapters. I think there is. They got a taste of how popular these guys are. They got a taste of it, their logo. The skull is so iconic. It seems to me that that logo has become a household image. Everybody has seen that.
It's like one of the 5 most popular tattoos in the world, I believe.
I wouldn't doubt that. Yeah, it's awesome. So for them to see how much time really they wasted and not leaving their differences aside and maybe getting this opportunity to reform and be on tour, I think it's not going to stop. It might, maybe one day, Glenn will say no, but who am I? I don't know. I am just the drummer in the band. But from what I see, it could go on for a while.
Okay. It's interesting hearing you talk about both Bungle and Misfits, and you talk about those guys will do this and those guys will do that. It seems like you feel there's very much a separation between you and the rest of the band. When I see you as a collective, they need you. You're part of this thing. And
well, ultimately in the Misfits, it's Glenn and Jerry. Mm-hmm. They don't loop me in on their emails and let me know, hey, we're thinking about doing this or doing that. No, it's not like that. With Bungle, it is a little more collective. Mm-hmm. I'm included in all the emails, decisions, T-shirt designs and album design or anything. We all pitch in our ideas and opinions. So every band is a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, that's just the way I address everyone. Those guys, these guys.
Yeah. So looking into your crystal ball, you think there's more in the Misfits? You think there's some live shows, maybe some recordings?
I don't know about recordings, but I'm sure there'll be live shows.
Ah, wonderful.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the artwork that's happening around the new Bungle LP. You mentioned you've been involved in some of the packaging and things like that. Walk us through some of the. I think there's a yearbook that they're making for the Bungle CD. There's some other packaging for vinyl.
Yes, which I haven't seen yet, but it is coming together, so I really can't say much about it. But let's say, for example, the USA single that we released, that was, we all collectively decided on the bunny with the American flag bandana and reminiscent to the Exploited logo and, things like that. But yeah, the new album cover, I have not seen it. I know there's a yearbook. There's something that put together, but yeah, I'm excited to see it. So it could be any day.
I think what I'm hearing is there's some interesting secrets in that, and we need to wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was happily surprised with the Dead Cross album when I left it out for a day, and then at night it glowed in the dark. I had no idea.
You did?
Was coming.
Wow, that's great.
Was there any blowback for Bungle releasing the song USA? I mean, even though it is a cover, it's it could be quite an explosive commentary.
No, I didn't hear any. I didn't. No. I'm trying to think. I didn't hear anybody complain about it. I didn't go into details and start seeing what people's comments were.
Right.
I'm just really not interested. I live by the I think by my mantra is, I don't give a fuck. Do what I want, and the band lives by that as well. It's like we do what we want. We don't really care what, people say.
Fantastic. So, Dave, I get the impression you are a bit of a vinyl head. You've been making some picture discs and releases that are only available on vinyl. Would I be right in that?
Yes.
Excellent. Do you have a vinyl collection at home?
Yes, I do.
Describe for me Dave Lombardo's vinyl collection.
Well, a lot of it's been stolen.
Well, that is not at your home, or you stole it. Are you saying you stole it? A lot of your vinyl is stolen.
A lot of my vinyl has been stolen. There was a time that I was recording bands, out of my home. This was a long time ago, and just working on my engineering chops and my production chops. And shortly after that, I realized, after thumbing through my vinyl, it's like, man, there's some shit missing here. What's going on, But I've been able to, repurchase and, remember what I had and, just buy it again. Luckily, vinyl's making a comeback, and which I heard it outsold CDs by a large margin, huge percentage. So, which is a good thing.
Yeah. So is that your preferred way of listening to music? Do you put on a record a few times a day?
No, I don't. No. I usually do that, let's say, when my wife and I are cooking dinner, maybe having a couple of drinks, we'll have a vinyl night and, we play some music and, that's usually how I go. But let's say during the day, if I have to listen to something, usually during the day, if I listen to something, it's usually as reference or listening, to something that's crossed my path and I've been told, hey, you got to check this out. And I'll usually go online real quick and listen to it. Yeah, but I do love vinyl. There's nothing like the scratches and the pops and, the sound of that needle just on the record. It's amazing.
Now, what were some of the pivotal records in your life? Did you have a lot of records as a kid?
Yes. Yes. I mean, that's all I bought. 45s as well. I mean, my earliest recollection of a 45 that I bought was a song by the Doobie Brothers called Long Train Running. And the reason why I bought this 45 was because there was a band that I had seen when I was probably 10 years old, and they played that song by the Doobie Brothers. And on the other side was that was Bachman Turner Overdrive. So Doobie Brothers, Long Train Running on one side, and there was another popular song on the other. But it turns out that Long Train Running was the B-side to the hit. So I personally like the B-side better than the hit, because that was the reason I bought it. And then another early 45 that I bought was Bachman Turner Overdrive's Taking Care of Business. And these songs, I had to have been 10 years old before I even had a drum set. And I would play along to these songs, hitting my couch with drumsticks and whatever object, I could hit. But yeah, those were the earliest. And then I think my first vinyl that I bought was Kiss Alive, the first Kiss album. And I still have that one. That one wasn't stolen.
Yeah, you've got your original copy and everything, yeah?
I have the original, yeah. It even has, because I was really inspired by Peter Criss and his drum solos. And in 9th grade, I had done a drum solo for a talent show. And I had a blister on my hand. And I was listening to Kiss Alive, just getting inspired. And, I needed to disinfect this blister that was getting, really bad. And I spilled the alcohol on the actual album cover. So there's this stain on the album cover. It's so old. And I remember buying Destroyer, The Who Are You? Oh, man. And I got into Van Halen. Oh, man, it just goes on from there. AC/DC.
All the heavy classics.
All the classics.
If you had to look back and identify a couple of drum influences on you, who would they be?
Well, obviously, Peter Criss, John Bonham, Zeppelin. I think one of the very first rock albums my ears, heard or felt was Led Zeppelin 2. And my brother had that, and he would listen to that when he would come home from work. He's several years older than me. And so that was one of his favorite albums. So Led Zeppelin, John Bonham, Peter Criss. Another 45 I bought when I was a kid was Purple Haze with Foxy Lady on the B-side. I loved Mitch Mitchell. I loved the fire that guy played. He's just, he had this energy that was just unlike any other drummer, and it was just a little different. So I really like those three drummers right there. And then later I bought, of course, Paranoid by Black Sabbath, and Bill Ward is another phenomenal drummer that really helped me hone in the style and rock and all that. So
I would imagine Keith Moon mixed in there as well. Yeah.
Well, yeah. With his recordings, I was a little disappointed with some of the recordings. They kept him very low in the mix. And then later I discovered, some other songs that really highlighted his playing. And he was rogue. He was brute. He had this energy, this kind of punk attitude that really spilled over into his drumming. And, I was able to hear that finally, because I had heard he was just one of the greatest, but really I wasn't convinced by the recordings. But then later in time, I realized, man, this guy was unlike any other drummer. He was just rogue, and he was just like a punk at heart.
Yeah. Wild behind the kit and in real life.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Dead Cross. Are we going to hear some new Dead Cross music this year, do you think?
Yes. We recorded the album. I wrapped it up, I think. Oh, God. I think the 23rd of December or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have that. That album's done. Patton is working on the vocals as we speak. And we've been getting some of the tracks recently, and it sounds great. This album is a little longer than the first one. The songs are a bit more lengthy, and I'm very happy with this one. The band has evolved. We've toured together. We've spent a lot of time, on the creative side, just, trying to expand our style and our abilities. And we recorded it. I mean, we've been writing it now for about, I recorded it in December. So summer of 2019, I was commuting to Los Angeles, and three times a week, working with the guitar player, and we were writing the parts and the bass player as well, Crane and Pearson, and we'd get together and just jam out parts, record, and then we send it over to Patton. He gives us 2 cents, and then we go back and re-record and get creative with the parts, and until we go into the studio, and then we fine tune everything and track it. But that album is almost done.
Fantastic. How is Michael doing these days? I know he had some health scares last year.
Oh yeah. He had a cancer scare, and he beat cancer, and he's happy. He's got a new lease on life, and he's just loving, the world right now. It was quite the news, because I had met him. I said, okay, let's meet for rehearsal. He says, I got to go to the doctor. There's something on the side of my neck. I don't know what it is, like close to his throat. And he says, I got to go get it checked. And he shows up at rehearsal, and he did not look good. He had this look on his face. Hey, what's up? He goes, dude, I have cancer. I said, whoa. I need to sit down. First, the first thing I said, you're going to be okay. You're going to beat this. You're going to be fine. He goes, oh yeah, I know. But there's such horrible news to get, and to have to go under the treatment, of all that chemo and everything. We were recording the album. I was recording my drum tracks, and he had just stopped chemo. So he could hardly eat. He was puking, in the studio. He would get sick. But he was determined to get this album done, regardless of how he felt. He's a strong man. He's awesome.
He's a trooper. Man.
Yeah, he is.
So he's 100% now, yeah?
Yeah, 100% free. Yeah.
Fucking great.
Yeah. Very lucky. I'm so happy for him.
Now, you've got this tremendous relationship with Mike Patton through multiple bands, several decades now. Fantômas, was that your first project with Mike?
Yes.
Okay. And when you recorded that first Fantômas album, it was pre-Ipecac. I don't think the label even existed at that point. What was the conversation like around what you thought would happen to that recording?
I believe he knew at that time, because that album launched Ipecac, and that was the first album the record company put out, which, I was fine with it. I trusted him and trusted Greg and his history and everything. So, I didn't have any concern.
Yeah.
But 1999.
It's been a while. Have we heard the last of Fantômas?
I hope not. I really hope not. Fantômas is one of those bands. Unfortunately, they played a show, I think, opening up for Tool somewhere here in California, and I couldn't make it. I had another commitment, and Dale Crover took my place. But I hope that at least we get another tour in or another album, because that concept, that band was so unique and just so amazing. The music, it's just phenomenal. I just masterpiece. I'm so proud of that band.
Is that the band or project that's pushed you the most to develop your art?
Yes. That project has taught me to be fearless, not to abide any genre, not to pigeonhole yourself, and just have a love of music in general, regardless of what style it is. I mean, we touched on so many genres within those 4 albums that we recorded that it really helped me understand my ability and acknowledge, the love for music that I have. And not just metal, all styles. Play a little funk, play easy listening, very soft music, playing with brushes, using a cello bow on my cymbals, using shakers, using bells, and being a percussionist rather than just a drummer, has really opened my not only creativity, but also, just my ability to accept being challenged. It's like, come on, bring it on, challenge me. It's not about how fast you can go or what kind of paradiddles you play or whatever, or you don't play enough, double strokes, or, it's like, it doesn't matter. This was something that really, just took off the blinders. Because you sometimes, when you're younger, you have these blinders, and usually they're placed by your fans, that only want to see you play only one style of music. I think for a true musician, or for someone that really loves music, you shouldn't have those. I think you should be free and do what you want.
The Fantômas albums, each of them had a different theme. Was that theme brought by Mike or someone, and then everyone gathered around it? Or were the themes discussed and then everyone agreed in a particular direction to go?
No, Patton was the brainchild. He was it. He was the guy. He had these ideas and these concepts. The first album with the it's like a comic book, not Delirium, director's cut. That had all the soundtrack themes, and then the cartoon record, suspended animation. That was amazing. And then Delirium Cordia, which was the surgery record, which is what I called it. That thing, is dark. It has this vibe that it has something that no other album has.
I noticed on Delirium Cordia, you got a producer's credit. I think same with Suspended Animation. Were you feeling more comfortable about contributing at that point?
I don't think I got a producer's credit on that.
Pretty sure you do.
Really? Huh. Oh, check that. I didn't know.
Oh.
I think Patton was the one that produced. He was the main guy for those albums.
Okay.
Yeah.
It shows you as producer. Yeah. Drums, percussion, samples, producer.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah. Because I saw the first two albums, it was Patton, and then the last two albums, you were also credited in that. So I thought, okay, maybe Dave is coming with a little bit more of the concept now.
Well, I don't hold back, just because I don't get if I don't get a title or I don't get a certain credit, it doesn't mean that I'm going to hold back. I think it's not fair to the product or, to the body of work. If you're going to limit yourself based on, I'm not going to get writer's credit, then I'm not going to play what I want to play. If that was the case, I would have just played a thrash beat and not have done any drum rolls on any of the Slayer records because they didn't give me credit, but I went ahead and I gave it all because I believed in the music. So it's just how I work.
Formalities. Yeah. So, look, I want to be respectful of your time, Dave, and wrap it up on time. Let me give you a few questions from the audience that have sent in some questions for you.
Sure.
Marcel de Souza of Brazil asks, what is your recollection of recording live Undead? Legend has it there was no audience during the recording. Is that true?
No, there was audience, but we recorded that album live inside a studio. And we gave away tickets on the local radio station for kids to come in and watch the recording. So, the band did play live, and the crowd, the group of people that were allowed into the studio were mic'd and they were cheering. That's why it sounds like there's only a few people in the room when you listen to that album.
Okay. How many people do you think were there? Was it a 50, 100, a couple hundred, handful?
Between 20 and 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Marcel, there's your answer. Brendan DeLong of San Jose asks about Slayer's audience getting out of hand. What are some of the worst incidents of thrashing the venue from a show that you played at?
Well, there were times that we were charged for the damage that, the fans did. I remember walking through a venue once, a really nice theater that we had played, and I guess some of the fans just ripped the handrail off the wall leading up to the balcony. And I was like, geez, other times, the famous Felt Forum show where the fans ripped out the seat cushions from that venue and were tossing them. And I'll never forget, the seat cushions flying all over the place. I had to duck a couple times because I saw a seat cushion come at me. And, those were epic days, where nobody cared. There was another time where they had placed seats at a large venue that we were playing at. And it's like, well, that's not going to go well. The band commented among each other and said, wow, that's not going to go well. And sure enough, during the show, the fans cooperated and removed the seats and put them all in a pile on one side. And everybody started moshing. That was awesome.
Oh, that's very respectful. I thought that story was going to take a different turn.
No. Slayer fans, they're generally cool. I've seen them start bonfires, in like festivals and out. Let's say we played amphitheaters, and the first several rows there's seats, but then you go onto the grass area, and I've seen like bonfires and kids running around them, moshing around the bonfires. And that was really cool. Yeah.
We had our high school reunion. It was like a 5-year high school reunion. I want to say like 92 or something like that. And in the Bay Area, and Slayer was playing the Mountain View Theater the same night. So half the people from our graduating class showed up at the reunion about 3/4 of the way through the night, bloody and with clothes torn.
Yep. That's what you get.
Yeah. Everyone knew what was going on. All right. Shane Worrell of Cork, Ireland asks, Dave, were you and Hanneman at peace when he passed?
Yes, absolutely. 100% peace.
Good.
Yes.
Okay.
There was absolutely nothing. The last text I got from him was that he wasn't happy what he was hearing and that he was going to talk to somebody. And, that was it. But no, we were totally fine. We were texting each other all the way until, everything went down.
Got it. Wonderful.
We weren't texting each other after the split, but before the split, we were texting each other up until then. Yeah.
Got it. So, all right, Marcel, Brandon, Shane, thank you very much for your questions. Dave, absolute pleasure talking with you. Thanks for sharing those stories with us. And I want to remind folks, the new Bungle, October 30th, it's amazing. It really is just what I said earlier, peak thrash. I've had such a good time listening to this album, and I can't wait to hear it on vinyl. Of course, you can always go up to MrBungle.com, order a copy. I believe Ipecac may have some as well. I also want to shout out DaveLombardo.com, where I believe there's some stereo art and vinyl products there. Can you quickly tell us about what those are?
Well, there's like an art style where it's called Rhythm Mysterium that I was approached by this company called Scene 4, where they take photographs in the dark while you're, using these drumsticks, and they really capture some amazing images. And they asked me to be part of their collection. And there's a little book that you could purchase, and it's got the pictures, and you could also listen to a drum solo that I created while looking at that image. So I was inspired by the image and created a drum solo from that. And so you get this little book and this little picture disc, which is really cool. And you could also buy the prints, which it's on canvas. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I think there might be 8 to 10 of them.
Wow.
Really cool prints you could check out. And yeah.
Yeah, it looks like the first edition book and vinyl picture set, there's 300. So it's very limited run. They're all autographed and with an authenticity stamp and certificate and everything with that. So check that out, DaveLombardo.com. I'll also put the links in this episode page. And Dave, again, absolute pleasure talking with you, and thanks for coming on the Vinyl Guide.
You're welcome, man. Thank you. Great talking to you too.
There we have it, Mr. Dave Lombardo, the legend himself, here on the Vinyl Guide. And man, what a fantastic dude. And I got to tell you, MrBungle.com, if you haven't ordered a copy of the Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny demo yet on vinyl, you better grab one quick. Most of all of the colored versions have already sold out. There's a few of them left, so grab one while you can. There's also a virtual live event happening Halloween 2020, a virtual live concert experience called Mr. Bungle Presents The Night They Came Home. Again, all details and vinyl and everything is available at MrBungle.com. And that's it for this week's episode of The Vinyl Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I beg of you, please share these episodes on your social media. Put them on Facebook, put a link on Instagram, or tweet them out on Twitter. Let your friends know about this podcast. They'll probably enjoy it as much as you do, and that is hugely appreciated from us here. We also have a sponsorship opportunity available at patreon.com/vinylguide. If you go up there, help support this podcast for a couple bucks a month. We put all sorts of extra stuff up there. So that's patreon.com/vinylguide. Join us up there, and that would be brilliantly awesome. Anyway, we'll be back shortly with a brand new episode. So until we talk next time, keep spinning. Cheers.
That's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Send your thoughts to Nate at thevinylguide.com or follow or tag us on Instagram at Vinyl Guide. Until next time, keep spinning.